everybody. Thank you for listening. We are brought to you by Boss Bears Supplements. Hard work, consistency, and determination are difficult to sustain when your mind and body can't keep up. Fuel your body with what it needs to perform like a boss. Whether you're closing deals, pitching a new business idea, or training in the gym, Boss Bears take your hustle to the next level. Our ingredients are the highest quality with potency and serving sizes that are the gold standard in the industry. Right here we got Boss Bears apple cider vinegar gummy bears. So Boss Bears supplements take regular supplements and put them in the delicious form of a gummy. These are the apple cider vinegar gummies, and they are fucking delicious. The sugar content is pretty low. You're going to get all of your daily apple cider vinegar in delicious apple gummy flavor. Check it out. Go to bossbears.com and use code Nicky to save 10%. Okay, we are also brought to you by Clout Power Supplements. Cloutpower.com, Kloutpwr. Go to cloutpower.com and check out Clout Power Supplements. Use code Nicky to save 15% at checkout. They just came out with the new pre-workout flavor, Space Candy. It is absolutely delicious. I've tried it myself. My favorite of the pre-workouts is the Mamba Extreme Pre, because I'm a guy that likes stims. They also have a stim-free. They have a nootropic pre-workout called Karma that is also very good. They also have some delicious protein and just many great supplements. So go to cloutpower.com, Kloutpwr.com. Use code Nicky to save 15%. All right, man. Clout Power, baby. Let's go.
It's good coffee, too.
Hell yeah. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Nicky Free Podcast. We are here with Curt Ligot from Roundbox Fitness.
Got it.
And how you doing today, man?
Good, man. I love the studio. You got me some coffee. So
we got some chocolate coffee from Bones Coffee Company here. So
that's good stuff.
Damn, that is good coffee.
Right.
Yeah, shout out to Bones Coffee. I love their stuff.
Are they local or were they at?
You know what, man? I'd have to look. I found them through Instagram,
Sweet.
like everything. But they do a lot of cool flavors, like, you know, I got like cotton candy flavor over there. I got mint chocolate chip ice cream. I got like caramel something. This is the Army of Darkness chocolate. And, you know, so like the cover art has like the Army of Darkness, like the chainsaw arm, like the movie and everything. Yeah. So they got some pretty cool, unique.
I'm a sucker for labels, so I'll probably get some.
Oh, me too, dude. Their branding. And then there's just their flavors are so good. So yeah, shout out to Bones Coffee.
Delicious.
So Curt, you are the president and owner of Roundbox Fitness.
You got it.
And so why don't you give us a little bit of insight about what Roundbox Fitness does, and then we can get into like how this all happened, how you decided to start it and everything.
Yeah. So Roundbox Fitness, we're a fitness and wellness company. We're comprised of a whole line of equipment. We have 15 different pieces of equipment that my father and I invented. And so my dad and my brother do all my manufacturing. So beyond the equipment, there's a whole system behind it, and our specialty, our strong suit is joint strength.
Okay.
Yeah, so because of that, you know, we work with athletes, we work with fitness clients, and we're like a support system for other systems, if that makes sense.
Right. So rehabilitation type stuff?
Yeah, well, so it's pretty interesting because we have rehabilitation type results, but we do it in a strengthening manner. So it's very similar concepts to stuff you see like with stretching or PT, but we're actually doing resistance training right deep in the joint. So it's almost the same principles that you have with weights, but we're taking it to the connective tissue level. So
you're able to probably rehab joints and stuff that maybe people thought are already too far gone.
Exactly.
And kind of bring them back?
Yeah, and that was kind of or part of why this whole thing started. Like my shoulders were so messed up, and I did surgery, I did PT, and I was going nowhere, and I was like, I gotta figure this out.
And how long were you doing like surgery and PT before you decided to take matters into your own hands?
Yeah, so I had bad shoulders, and Mark actually remembers this since like 90.
He's talking about Mark Sendai.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Mark. Mark is a mutual friend of ours. He's the one that set up this podcast. So shout out to Mark. We love Mark. Yeah.
Yes.
But so anyways, yeah, so your shoulders.
Yeah, so I had bad shoulders since like 93. I got surgery late 90s. And, I went to BT and it kind of helped. But then every time I went back to try and lift or be like kind of intense again, I kept re-injuring myself. So, yeah, so it was partly that. And then I became a fitness trainer. And then when I was talking about you earlier, as a fitness trainer, like 80% of your guys have a bad shoulder, a bad knee, bad back. And so even if you're up to date on the fitness stuff, like if you can't help someone with, joint strength and injuries, it's like
it's stuff that we maybe take for granted or
Yeah.
put it off if it's hurting us. It's like a nagging injury that you don't
Yeah.
you're like, if I just don't worry about it, it'll go away type of thing.
Yeah, and especially with guys, we'll work until until something falls off, and you're like, all right.
Yeah, it's like you're having a heart attack. Your wife's asking you, like, are you okay? You're like, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. God damn it, Yeah, that is like, but anyway, so after the surgery, did you get much relief in your shoulders? Obviously not enough where if it made you decide to do this.
Yeah, to be fair, it comes down to a lot of imbalances in the soft tissue. So is there imbalances in the musculature, and because of that, the joints are going to get worn away. So I wouldn't say the surgery wasn't successful. It did what it was supposed to do.
It did help.
But that next step is you have to realign or restructure how your muscles hold you up, how those connective tissues are behaving.
Right. And so is it kind of a thing that just like in modern society, we just don't use our joints the way that we're supposed to, kind of?
Yeah.
Like it probably, if you're in the wild, or like the way a gymnast does, they're on their joints all the time. So they probably get really strong, durable joints that are able, but like us, I mean, if you're working a sedentary job or you're sitting a lot, your joints aren't getting the proper care that they need. And even with lifting, we're doing a lot of motions in a certain one way, or if you're working even an active job, you're probably doing a lot of repetitive patterns in the same way.
Yeah.
So you're not getting that full mobility and everything that maybe strengthens those. So
yeah, I mean, you summarize it perfectly in the sense, maybe things are being overused, so we have to work on the opposite. And the way I really look at joint strength too is there's very specific ranges you need to get into to strengthen the joints. And there's a very specific way you have to do those resistance training.
And we probably don't get in those ranges quite a bit in modern life, right?
Yeah.
And so that's probably where your the inventions that you've created come into play, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, man. So when you decided to start researching this, how long did that take to research? And was this something that grew over a number of years, probably?
Yeah, so the concept of the system hit me in about 2006. So at my old job, it was a really nice gym, still there in downtown Seattle, called Seattle Athletic Club.
But you've been training since 1999 as a trainer. Yeah. And so about 2006 is when this started to... Yeah.
Because so basically the first part of my career, and like a lot of trainers, you have to work around injuries. And so that is a good skill to have, but then it's always as a service provider, a trainer, like you're always bummed, like I can't help.
You're like, I wish I could help them fix the injury.
So it became my obsession to like how do we strengthen joints? Because at the job I was at Seattle Athletic Club, we had professional athletes there. Like we had a handful of the Sounders. And it was a hub for squash, of all things. It's a really big international sport. So we had like professional squash players come down.
Okay.
And so with those two sports, I saw so many shoulder and hip injuries. And, I had, I was kind of proud of what I did. I was trained on traditional weights, but I was finding that my strength training was actually making their hip and shoulder injuries worse.
So it wasn't actually... getting to the root.
Yeah, and so and not to demonize that, I think that stuff's awesome, but I needed to do other stuff to make that effective. And so part of the discovery I had when I started, I did a lot of studying and I flew out to work with other trainers, is that the shoulders and hips are ball and socket joints.
Yes.
So we had to find a way to create resistance in these circular motions.
Okay.
So that the first thing that I was shown and I really dove into was water training. So when you get in the pool, you can go in these circular ranges of motions with your hip and shoulder, and not only is it therapeutic, but you get crazy strong.
Yeah, and it's like low resistance, right?
Yeah, so the cool thing about the water, and this is what our equipment actually mimics, it's called isokinetic, meaning that it pushes against you as hard as you push against it. So if I had you in the water, like doing like a hip circle, that water is
it's resistance all the way the whole time.
Exactly. And it'll adjust to you. So as you get stronger, the water is going to supply more resistance. So it's like you never outgrow it.
Yeah, so it's constant resistance all the way around. Yeah, not just in one direction or...
Yeah.
All right, man. So when you decided to create Roundbox...
Yeah.
So you get this idea, and then did you get with you said your brother?
Yeah. So the funny story behind that was like, we were killing it in the water. Then I started to...
So it all started with the water thing.
Yeah. I mean, it just teaches you about actual movement. And like you said, resistance in every direction.
Yeah.
So, and I realized how valuable that was. But a lot of people hate getting in the pool. So I was like, all right, I got to do this on land now.
Yeah.
So I was doing it with bands and ropes, and it was working well. But then... I had very specific movements that I wanted to do, and I couldn't do it with the existing equipment. So I had all these drawings, and I was trying to figure out, like, how do I get this stuff made? So I was actually at my dad's house, and he saw my drawings. He's like, "What are you doing, dude?" And I was like, "Well, I'm trying to get this made." And he's like, "I can do that." And I was like, "What?" So,
and does your dad have like a background in some of this stuff?
No, and so that's the crazy part is they have a machine shop, and they mostly do flat pattern cutting, so like signage. So anything 2D. But he's an engineer. He's like, I can figure it out. And I kind of...
So he's an engineer. Yeah. That makes sense.
And I didn't believe him. I was like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Well, that's kind of like... So my dad is kind of like that in a sense. Like, I remember we did this project when I was in college where it was drafting and design technology. So we had to come up with this project. And, like, a couple of us were into, like, deer hunting at the time. So we decided to design this deer stand, an aluminum deer stand. And, like... It's funny because we designed it, we drew it all out and everything, and my dad was able to just like make it. It's like he's worked enough in welding and mechanical and automotive, and he just had those skills. So we ended up making them, and he was able to weld it, put it together, and it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's exactly. When you have that type of very background into engineering, it's almost, in a sense, almost limitless what they can do. I mean,
it is. Engineers are like very valuable in our society, and we don't give them enough credit. Like we drive over bridges with zero idea how much engineering went into it, And
exactly.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah. So when he said he could make it, I kind of blew him off. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. And he came back like 3 days later with a prototype. I'm like, what the heck?
Like you didn't even take him serious. You just said, okay, Dad, sure.
Yeah. And so, fast forward, and that's how our process goes now. Like I think of the concept, and sometimes like I have a tiny bit of skill. I'll throw together an ugly Frankenstein version. Mm-hmm. I'll give it to him. He makes it sound. He really makes sure it's, durable and it can work really well. And then my brother's very good on the production side to make it look like a professional product. It's like a 3-step process, which
matters too, the design of stuff, right? So what are the actual products that you use for Roundbox Fitness? You might as well give an explanation of kind of some of the tools. I've seen some of it, but I'll have you explain it.
Yeah, so we have 15, but I'll just talk about, I think, just 3.
15? Yeah. Damn. Okay, but you'll talk about 3.
Yeah, right. Just 3, because those are the ones that are really taking off. And because our system is relatively unique, a lot of it, usually people don't get until 6-8 months later. But these 3 pieces that we really are putting forward,
they're what you start with right away.
Yeah, and people see it and they get it right away, at least to some degree.
Right.
So the one that there's 2 of them you saw at a body shop, but one of them was the Mantis stick. So those big long black sticks. Mm-hmm. We have 4-foot and 6-foot pair. Those are amazing for joint strength. So easy way to explain it, the way the sticks are and the handles, I can get any stretch position that you would, and then we create resistance within those. So like if you're doing, like, a good example is like you really stretch out your lats, and I hold you here in the sticks, and then you start doing these small, we call them micro reps, partial range of motion reps. You're going to get that muscle and tendon crazy strong because we have you in a stretch position, you're supported. Right. And so, and isometrics is partially what we do. It's like the water where it gives you as much as you give it. So, and
it's those little neglected movements around joints that we don't usually do.
Exactly.
That's what's going to give you the strengthening. Those are, and that's what's going to get you to the root of those problems, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So a good way to think about it too is most of the time in the gym, you're going to hit the kind of these transitional ranges, which really isolates the muscle belly, and that's what you want to do to add on more muscle.
Yeah, for like bodybuilding, I mean, that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and so all you have to do, like bench press is an awesome example. So bench is typically kind of 90 and up, right? Mm-hmm. So all I'm going to do with you, or someone who's bench, I'm going to get you way back here. And
because you're going to be weak back there.
Yeah, I'm just going to get you strong here so that the two complement each other, if that makes sense.
So it's those tiny little, No, that makes a lot of sense.
And what's great, especially working with someone who has a resistance training background, is the concepts aren't that different. So I'm basically same concepts. I'm just going to put you in different ranges.
Yeah, that you would not normally be able to get into without these tools, correct?
Exactly.
And that's the point of the tools in general, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yep. So those are the first ones. What were some of the other ones?
So the second one I'm going to talk about was actually our first invention, and that was directly inspired by the water. So there's these weighted handles. We have 3, 5, and 7 pounds, and on the end of them they have these ribbon strands. So I teach people these big kind of arcing throwing motions.
Yeah.
So for one, what the ribbons do is if the ribbons are flowing smoothly, that's how I know I'm activating connective tissue. Because whenever you have smooth transition and power movements,
right,
that's your tendons and fascia like facilitating that.
Mm-hmm.
So the ribbons, if I see that correct pattern, I know that's happening.
Okay.
And then 2 is there's a sound. So it's almost, I grew up in Kung Fu movies. I'm probably sure.
Oh,
you
yeah,
did too.
man.
You know,
So
they're
like
woo, woo.
Bruce Lee stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The sound of the ribbon lets me know power output. So if you're not throwing that hard, it's a very light flutter.
So it helps you gauge, basically.
Yeah, and then with when we have higher power output, it's like a kind of a deep thundering. So we have,
and that's like the shirt you got on right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is
that's dope.
One of our artists made for this our core blade shirt.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, and also too is those are kind of throwing motions. So I have a whole shoulder series where they throw the handle back and then they decelerate, very controlled. So it actually at the end range here when I'm slowing that down, tendons and muscles once again are getting strong and elastic,
activated. Yeah.
In very big extended ranges.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And that device was what helped heal my shoulder. So like once I had that device and I was able to kind of.
And how are the shoulders right now?
Dude,
pretty bulletproof.
Bulletproof, baby.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So like, well, and you hear these things a lot. Like I'm a big fan of Diamond Dallas Page. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
So like DDP Yoga, he was a similar guy where like
I love that guy.
They were basically like, hey, yo, you're gonna have to get surgery and your back is screwed. Yeah. And he was like, is it really? Do I have to? And he looked into it and he researched yoga himself. And he took all the stuff he liked from yoga and got rid of the stuff that he thought was just kind of the woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
And he put together DDP Yoga. And, I mean, it's like he was able to cure his back by strengthening the muscles. Kind of what you're saying, like going to the root of the problem, strengthening all the muscles around the problem area.
Yeah.
And once he was able to do that, he didn't need back surgery. And, then he's helped people come back from – paratrooper injuries where they couldn't even walk. You've probably seen that video.
Like, so convincing after you see that.
Well, in that video, man, that'll make you cry if you watch it. It's like so well done, and you just feel so much for the guy. To go from being overweight, not being able to walk, to be able to run and stand on your head. Yeah. And he like lost all that weight. He can do he can stand on his head and run and jump. So you're doing a similar thing for people I think when you feel that something is, and I've talked to other trainers where they've had similar things too. If you're dealing with somebody that's quality of life has gotten to a point where their outlook on the future gets so bleak, it causes this almost depression because it's like they don't feel that there's any real hope or light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. And if you're able to give that kind of quality of life back to them, it's like, it can heal more than just their body. I mean, their whole outlook on life, their whole mental state can change for the positive. Yeah. And they can, and that translates in everything. It could translate in how their performance at work, their relationships with other people, their relationships with their significant other. I mean, it's pretty big, man. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and that was the big kind of driving force for me because back in high school, I really loved, kind of training like a bodybuilder and the aesthetic of it. Yeah. And I wasn't able to do that. It was like...
Oh, it took it away from you. You're like, this is not right.
Yeah. And so when you see that in other people, and like you said, in different avenues, especially with athletics, when these guys have to back away from their sport, it's like their identity. So it's like being able to have a tool to keep somebody competitive doing the things they love is like...
And I bet it helps athletes a lot.
Yeah.
Even young, healthy athletes.
Well, and that was one of the big inspirations because the soccer players I was treating, they were in their early 20s, but their hips showed signs that I'd see like in a 56-year-old already. And when we realized that like not all of it was from their sport, I was like, what's going on, man? So it became like my mission. I was like, all right, we got to strengthen joints. Like,
so how do you gauge that where you look at somebody and you're like, damn, you have like the hips of a 70-year-old man, and then how do you know when it's gotten better? You can just there's things you look for, and mobility, and
so if I'm able to especially partner with their PTs and their doctors and even chiropractors, there's a lot of imaging technology,
x-rays and stuff. Okay.
And not to get too far into the weeds, but we work with a local doctor in Bellevue, and his whole thing that he actually taught me, or I had seen it anecdotally, but he showed me like the actual evidence of, like, hips are a great example because a lot of people get arthritis in there.
Yeah.
So if you're compressed in here and it's wearing away in the connective tissue, if we can create space, whether that's yoga or even like massage here, the connective tissue, when it has space, can actually regrow. And that was new to me because I thought once it's gone, it's gone.
I did too. I did not realize that.
So, and it's the matter of creating space. So whether it's my movement,
so with the space, it'll come back.
Yeah, but there's so many different ways to do it, which is the cool thing. Like, he does it with acupuncture, like you said, like guys who do things like DDP yoga or maybe even Pilates. If you can start creating space between the joints, there's a chance to regrow and regenerate, and that's exciting, man. Because I always, from what I was taught. That
once it's bone on bone, it's just bone on bone. I thought that too. It's pretty amazing, the body's ability to heal. Just it's crazy when you have a body that's in a certain shape and then you like are able to heal it, and like 5 years later it's like they're a different person.
Yes.
And it's like they don't even remember the time when they had that problem or issue. So that's pretty powerful stuff, man. So was the startup of it, was it pretty rough to get it going, or did it? I was gonna say it's got to be, right?
Yeah. So I'll give you the condensed version, but when initially I started doing it, one of my mentors, he taught me about the basics of it.
Yeah.
And when I came back and I started kind of doing it a different way on my own, like I was getting threatened with lawsuits, so like freaked me out. So
no shit.
So that was part of. So I went to a lawyer. I'm like, dude, what should I do? And he was like, hey, if you have your own equipment, your own system, people can't touch you.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to do my own thing in that sense, but that really like inspired me. It was like, I gotta protect myself here.
Yeah, that's crazy how that type of stuff will happen when you kind of like try to go out on your own and start something new.
So in a way, I kind of thankful that situation happened, because I don't think I would have been motivated to like create a whole new system of equipment, and if I wasn't like in fear of that.
So it really pushed you to create uniqueness in your own product, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it was a win-win in the sense that like on the business end, having your own equipment is it helps protect you and it's very marketable. But also too is, if I had the customized equipment, I could do the movements exactly the way I wanted to. So it's all
it all ended up working out for the positive.
Yeah,
man.
And there's so much. I'm only knowing you a little bit, but I can tell you're a very creative, passionate guy.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Well, like I'm the same way. So what I needed business partners who know business. I needed them, manufacturing skin. So there's like, I was like the creative of it, but then you need a team of badasses
to teach you the business part.
Yeah. So the business part, manufacturing, scaling, marketing, that's what we're doing now, is we're talking to marketing consultants. So it's this multi-tiered thing that...
So it's something that's still growing right now.
Yeah. So we're at a pretty exciting stage because so I own a studio in South Seattle, like about 20 minutes from here.
Okay, very cool.
And we were crushing it before COVID. So I'm a one-man show, and I think we were at like 50 clients, and our memberships are anywhere from $600 to $1,000 a month. So I was sitting pretty, but I had always wanted to launch a system, but I never had time because I was so busy with the studio.
Yep.
So when COVID shut us down, for one, like no money was coming in, so I had to do something.
That was a challenge for businesses. How did you get through it?
So it was a lot of panic, a lot of help from family and friends just to keep me afloat. And it was funny because I'm not a sales guy. I suck at sales. But I had nothing to do because I couldn't run my gym. So I started visiting other gyms and chiros and not even talking about my stuff. I just said, I just wanted to see what they do.
Yeah.
And I would give them shout outs.
Just research.
Yeah. And it was just promoting other businesses. I was like, we're all down. We might as well like...
I think there's a lot of value in promoting other people in the same field as you, especially right now because we don't have like that famine mentality. There's enough to go around for everybody type of thing. Okay. Especially in this area where fitness is such a big thing, and
it's giant.
So yeah, man. All right, not to interrupt. Keep going.
Yeah, so I was just visiting other people because like I never had a chance to network before, and so I'd give them shout outs, and it became a very tight network. You know, you start creating friends that way, and just organically, they was like, well, what do you do? And that's actually how our sales started.
Right.
Yeah, and so because of, you know, I had all that time over COVID to like start to talk to other professionals. For one, if they didn't like my stuff, I'd know why.
Yeah.
And two, and if they did, now we have a new customer base.
So either way, it's feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I got really good about not taking it personally when it was not interested.
That's a huge lesson, I think.
It is, and
yeah.
And I think it comes with time because of the first couple ones.
Oh, I have this weird thing where I just want everybody to like me.
I know.
You know what I mean? It's like, and anytime you're trying to do anything like this, go into business or, you know, do anything challenging, there's eventually going to be people that don't like you.
Yeah.
And if you're a people pleaser, that's tough.
It is.
Because you just want to be like, why can't I get you to like me, man? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
So after talking, I think we went to chiros, PTs, power lifters, strongmen. It was really cool because we got enough yeses to, you know, really see how our system can help all these different practitioners. And,
right.
And so, and also too, it proved us in the market that like other people wanted this. So, and you know, I think, God, man, I've totally lost track of time of COVID. I think we're almost 3 years.
Yeah, so now you're probably doing okay again.
Yeah. We're back on track because I was able to create a customer base with other professionals and even consumers. And it also, you know, it helped develop the system because, like, you know, now working with bodybuilders, I'm learning so much I did not know about the sport. And because of that, I can go back and I can change the program, or I can even change some of the equipment for these exact needs that every
of a bodybuilder.
Yeah, and that's what's been really awesome.
Well, so it's kind of like the negative of COVID happening, you were still able to find positive through that. It still helped you develop in a way.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think I ever would have had the balls to walk away from studio income to just be like, let's do this. And so it was like I didn't have a choice. It was like sink or swim. So
that's crazy. There's so many people I know that the COVID thing was such a challenge, but it also kind of brought out the best in people in a way because it was a challenge. So it's like, I mean, that's when I started training with Jordan with Renovation Fitness and started going to the body shop. And, you know, none of that would have happened if it wasn't for COVID.
Yeah, right.
And so, I mean, I look at the positive of it, which is pretty cool, man. So, yeah. So how long have you known Mark then?
Yeah, so Mark and I, we went to junior high together, so 7th grade. I'm horrible at math. I was 13. I'm 46 now, so long time.
So you guys have known each other a long time.
Yeah, so I always tease him because, you know, Mark was the weird kid with a bowl cut, but he had crazy calves. We're like, who's this guy? Yeah. And, and I saw him like, you know, start to read bodybuilding magazines. And so like he was always.
So you saw him from before bodybuilder to being what he is now, which is very impressive bodybuilder.
It is crazy because because he was always like really lean, but like, I mean, broad shouldered, but like no real muscle except for his calves were always.
He just had huge calves.
He was born with those. And then he kind of got serious in high school. And then like by the end of high school, I mean, he was like.
Pretty jacked,
So,
and now he still looks the exact same and has
same haircut. I don't think same face.
The dude's he's impressive, man.
No, what's great about Tim as a person, he's the same dude. He's the same dude with the bowl cut, the big calves, super genuine. Super
that's the cool thing is he's very impressive in bodybuilding, but also a very humble dude, down to earth.
No, I love that guy.
So that's huge, you know. And I mean, he's actually been helpful with this podcast. He was one of the first. When I decided to start it back up, so the history of this was me and my friend started at Nick and Ben podcast. He ended up, you know, getting a different job. He ended up not really having time to do it.
Yeah.
So then it was kind of like I was banking on, you know, like me, and then he's the funny guy. So it's like you got this group, you know, it's 2 people. And then it was just like at a point where I'm like, okay, either I let this thing sit dormant and all this in money that I've invested in equipment and everything, or I just start doing it myself. And Mark was like probably the first guy when I decided to start it back up. I'm like, I need to get, and you know, that's kind of a big deal because it's that first guest.
Yeah, right.
And once you get that first guest who's willing to do it, it solidifies it and makes more people. And now it's like, you know, easy to get guests. It's like, but it really, I don't know if that would have happened if Mark hadn't been able to do that. You know? So that's pretty cool. So shout out to him. And
well, it's like in every kind of niche and specialty in my realm, it's hard to get into as an outsider.
Yeah.
And the fact that Mark was like, heck yeah. And so like,
oh yeah, he's so good at, like you said, the networking thing.
yeah. So, it helps, someone as, respected as him, believes in what we do. It just like, you and I are here together because of Mark. So.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's like you said, somebody with the respect level that he has, and they're kind of like giving you the nod of approval, and then other people are like, oh, okay, that is a cool thing. Yeah. I get what you're saying, but so we wouldn't be able to do that without that guy. But so, anyways, with Roundbox and everything you're doing now, what are like the goals for the coming year, 2023? What do you see envision happening with that?
Yeah, so things they gelled at the right time together. The Mantis Sticks are actually our newest product, and out of all of the 15, they're the one that like people see right away and they're like, yes.
Because it's like really tangible.
Exactly. And so we are, the past, 5 months, we were sourcing and getting ready to scale manufacturing wise. Because right now we make on demand, which works. But as our marketing kicks in.
Oh yeah, if it gets big, you're gonna need real manufacturing, dude.
So we basically have contingency plans to do up to to 1,000 sets a day. So it's like as the sales come in, we know how to do that, and that's thanks to my brother because he did all that research, so he knows.
So that's learning how to scale properly,
and that's all him because like he knows at a certain volume he needs to buy more tooling. And then we need to hire another guy. And then once it gets to a certain level, then we have to outsource. So it's like,
oh man, that's exciting though, dude.
It is.
So this is gonna be an exciting year for you.
It is, yeah, because we have a partner coming on. I can't say who it is because we don't have the document signed yet. But we should be able to make our entry into the medical fitness world.
Yep.
Which would be kind of already what I'm doing, but it would be more official where I'd be selling to clinics and working with clinicians, like really specific, joint issues, whether it's shoulder, hip, low back.
Right, because it is kind of, I would say it's like physical therapy in a way too, right? It's like a fitness thing, but you guys are in that realm of rehabilitation and physical therapy and everything. So that would be huge, man.
Yeah. It's a different market, but an exciting market. And the way my mind works, I always think in diagrams. So, we're here in the epicenter of what we're trying to do. And we have all these like connections to outer spheres of, like now bodybuilding, chiropractors, MMA fighters. So like we kind of live in all these different realms.
Oh, it's probably huge for MMA, dude.
Yeah.
Well, do you watch any of that stuff?
Yeah. So that is my favorite. It's actually the only sport I watch. I don't watch.
Same. I'm not into sports, but I love watching fights.
Yeah. So
I really don't like. I can watch football. It's fun. I just can't really get into like who's winning or losing. I can watch the game and be like, damn, that's a good game.
Yeah.
But like, I just don't care who wins. I don't have the connection to the team or whatever.
Exactly.
But fights, man, they're so fun to watch.
Yeah, and so so it was when I opened my own studio, and that was 2013. I started training local fighters for free because I love MMA.
Yeah.
And actually, that was a huge part of how I developed more of the system.
Well, they're all beat up. They're perfect for you.
Yeah.
To try to like learn how to make your system good because they're all beat up.
Oh yeah, I mean, because that's what it was. Because I would do free fight camps, and what I saw, it was like within that 8 weeks, there would be new injuries within those 8 weeks. So I had to learn how to get somebody faster, stronger, in better shape while dealing with those injuries and actually helping with those injuries. So
helping kind of like rehabilitate some of them too, right?
Yeah.
What is weird because some of those guys that are elite athletes, like they get such rounded shoulders from all the clenching and and they just get their backs and shoulders are so messed up and they're in elite shape.
Yeah.
It's just that they're so specified to this position that they need to be like opened up and stretched out.
Yeah,
and like
you nailed it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of it was, we still need to work on pushing strength, but like if you look at like ratios, I always think of ratios. It's like a 60-40 pull to push or 70-30 where I have to, like you said,
so it's muscular imbalances basically.
Yeah, it's muscular imbalances, and then also too is like when we're getting to the extended ranges, that's how the tendons get damaged. So we got to get into those deeper ranges, open up the muscles, get the tendons longer but more elastic, because that's a big part of their power output, right?
Right. God, that's so
And
crazy.
it was really kind of awesome. You saw that as far as they're so here, because especially with BJJ.
That's what I was thinking of was...
They're always here.
Yeah, God, I'm thinking of... I can't think of the dude's name right now, but he's like the best jiu-jitsu guy, I think, that... exist right now.
Oh yeah, Gordon Ryan.
Gordon Ryan, dude. I'm thinking of him. He was, I've seen him on some podcasts and stuff, and you see him, he's like ripped. I mean, just jacked. Yeah. But he's got this fucking like he's all rounded forward.
Yeah.
And he's even like, I don't know what to do. This is how I am. And it's like some point in his life that's gonna suck. I feel like.
Exactly.
So like even him, elite athlete, but he's got those effects of.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about guys like that is you saw that very visible problem. So like, especially with someone that trained and that elite, even if we just open him up and kind of change the nature of his tissues, and that can happen in a session or two, we can help with power output like that day. So so once you get into the connective tissue, it's very different in the sense, because like with muscles, it's typically like 6 to 8 weeks before we see any physiological changes.
Yep.
But if we get into the connective tissue, like we can change
that stuff's faster
that day, like.
Oh, no way.
Because so many of your nerves are in here.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily have to strengthen them, but if I get them turned on, all of a sudden you're moving different. Your mobility.
It's just stuff that's been neglected so long. So it's just not even firing. It's not even active. And you're like reigniting it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's a good term, by the way.
I'm reigniting it, dude. Well, I'm sure this is great for bodybuilders because, like you said, it's like I know so many bodybuilders, we get really, really big, but we neglect like joint health and stuff like that, or like full range of motion and so they're, not stretching enough. And so I'm sure there's a big market for helping bodybuilders.
Yeah, and what I love about that too is from the handful that I've started working with so far is it's very easy to teach you guys this stuff because it's similar.
We already know the basics of like the human body and
Yeah, so it's usually really quick results. And then what I like to do too is when I talk to an athlete or client is understand like their schedule. So I don't want to add on another full workout you have to do. I want to sneak it into what you're already doing.
As like a beginning or the end of the workout.
Yeah, we can go beginning, end. We can go in between sets.
Okay, so this is a good way that you can like market and sell this. It's like it's not something that's going to be, you don't have to abandon everything you're working on. You're still an athlete in your sport.
Exactly.
I'm just going to add something that's going to help you be better at what you're already doing.
Yeah, and it was interesting because when I first started this, and I was a lot younger, probably a lot more arrogant, but I was like, I'm gonna replace everything.
Yeah,
and that did not go well with anybody.
No, that's a learning part, huh?
It is, but once I understood, like people's behaviors, like they're not gonna give up with their first love typically, and I understand that. And then two, we actually do better pairing with other systems.
Right.
So once I was like kind of tell my ego to chill out and like listen to people, it's like like I said, like as a person, like I love being a coach and a support person, and that's what I want our system to be. It's like, you're still gonna lift, you're still gonna fight, you're still gonna run, but we're just gonna add this here and there, and we're gonna help you do that better. And
it's gonna help you be better. Yeah, that's genius, man, because that's like, I mean, yeah, I just feel like in so many sports, I used to do pro wrestling, dude.
Oh, that's right.
So imagine that, like your joints and all, like.
I don't think there's any sport that's harder on.
Well, they say every match that we did is like a small car crash.
Yeah.
So they said, I don't know how much that is true, but I mean, I guess it makes sense. So like, we're wrestling usually on the weekends, and you're taking bumps and everything, and when you're young, you don't think much of it, but it is like. I guess to a normal person that's never done that, if they were to take that fall or that impact on their body, they would probably be like, what the fuck are you guys doing? But for us, it was just, it got so normal.
Yeah.
But I guess it is like a small car crash every time. And then you watch the guys in WWE and you're like, oh my God. And they got to have great support systems from like health and rehab. And because their bodies are just like going through it.
Yeah, right.
So you could probably even help people in that field.
Yeah. We work with a lot of different individuals, a lot of sports. I get fastest results and faster buy-in, or kind of people who love it tend to be in the power and speed sports.
Yeah, they're already athletes.
Yeah, and if you know how to produce power, you do have some connection to the nerves I'm talking about.
Right, and so like power lifters probably really get it.
Yeah,
they're using a lot of really precise body movements where they have to recruit every little tiny fiber to pull off the movement properly,
Yeah.
So they kind of get, I think, the connection. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's probably another one that you're a field you can get into is powerlifting.
Yeah, so we do work with some powerlifters, and then recently over COVID we started working with excuse me, I'm not using the right name. So it's strong men, but they're women competitors. So it might be strong women now.
Yeah.
But we connected really
strong person,
right? Yeah.
No, I get what you mean though. That's cool.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole different sport than powerlifting even. That's
And it is interesting too, is because after talking to more of them, so powerlifters and strongman competitors, off season they get into bodybuilding, so there's this kind of interesting trio of like awesome sports.
So they like kind of bodybuild for part of the year, and then they go into their strongman training.
Like this one girl I work with, she's a powerlifter and she does strong woman competition. She's like, well, I love the powerlifting part. She's like, I can just get fat and strong.
Well, that's what there is a certain this gets me in trouble sometimes because there's certain powerlifters that want to get rid of that kind of stigma where it's like, you know, I don't like the stigma of like all powerlifters just like to eat whatever they want and get huge. But then there's powerlifters I've met that specifically said the reason I love being a powerlifter is I don't care what I look like. I care about being strong and I get to eat what I want while I'm doing it. You know, and they still watch their diet because they still have to have the right building blocks. But I mean, I think some of them embrace that where it's like, I get to eat what I want and be strong, you know, and then they look at the bodybuilders that are just starving themselves and they're like, haha, you know, it's kind of a point of pride for some of them. Yeah. But then I met other powerlifters that are like super into like, not all powerlifters are big and fat, you know, and it's like, whatever, you know, whatever makes you happy, I say.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what's fascinating about all sports in the sense that like all these different body types can be elite.
Oh, yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I always think that with wrestling too, there was a period in WWE where almost everybody had to be like jacked and have a great physique, you know, because Vince McMahon kind of was, he likes bodybuilders and all that. And then, lately they've brought back the idea of different body types, which to me is so great because like when we were kids in the 80s, you had huge jacked guys and you had ripped guys, but you also had these like Earthquake and these giant guys with different body types, you know, and then in the 90s we had people like Viscera and we had like Mankind, you know, who wasn't a traditionally good body type and they were able to like, I don't know, it's just boring if everybody's jacked.
Yeah, well, it almost gives it off that, I think we have a similar taste. I'm looking at your He-Man figures.
Right.
It's like that comic book vibe.
Right, because you want a group of characters of varying different strengths and weaknesses and like, you know, not everybody gets to be the He-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
The He-Man is like the perfection of a body. But then you got like Mankind there, you know, and you got like, I think it's like celebrating different physiques and different ways for bodies to express themselves.
Yeah.
And like, how boring would stuff be if everybody was just like a fucking exactly looked the exact same, you know? Like,
well, that's one of the reasons I love fighting is what fascinated me about that is, you know, as I was working with fighters or even at the higher levels, you look at somebody who doesn't look that physically impressive. Oh, yeah. But he could whoop your ass in 5 seconds.
Look at Daniel Cormier, dude.
What? Yeah, exactly.
That guy, if you saw him, you'd just be like, okay. Yeah. But, dude, it's like, yeah, that is cool about fighting. And even, like, guys like that, what's that one little dude, Michael... The dude that just like eats one meal a day and he eats like pizza. And,
yeah, the grappler.
Yeah, he's like a jiu-jitsu. Yeah, that dude. I mean, if you saw him, you'd be like, "Who's this little skinny nerd?"
Yeah, next thing you know,
and he could kick most people's ass, dude.
You had no idea.
And they'd have no clue what hit him. You know, like. So yeah, dude. Yeah, I don't even know how to say his name. That was pretty good.
Yeah, Musumeci. Yeah.
Musumeci, Michael Musumeci. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the point of jiu-jitsu, though, right? It's kind of like the small is able to take the momentum of the bigger person and beat him.
Yeah, you know, it's really fascinating about that. And granted, Gordon Ryan's like a phenom, but he does a basic, they call it, you know, like, you know, probably familiar with this, a bro split. Like, he goes bodybuilding style. Yeah. So he can still get, because of the kind of isometric and close ranges of jiu-jitsu, it works perfect for that. And as a trainer, I always thought, like, if you did too much of that, it might hurt your athleticism. But then it's like, different situations.
When he might be a special case where he can just do both because he's such a phenomenal athlete. Yeah, you're right. There might be some guys. Well, it's kind of like John Jones. He does all that powerlifting and stuff, and he's gotten himself huge now. Yeah. Is that going to slow him down, or when he fights? Yeah, who knows? You know, but it's definitely impressive what he's been able to do with his body. You know, and So yeah, dude, I like the human body anatomy, like the idea that people can create what they want.
Yeah.
So it is weird. That's the cool thing about the human body. It's like you could have a person go into bodybuilding and, etch themselves into this like extremely lean physique and look a certain way.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, if they wanted to, they could eat, just power lift, get as fat as they could, but strong.
Yeah.
And they'd be a totally different body. And it's like the human body is so capable of so many different expressions of itself that, I don't know, I just find that to be a fascinating thing in the fitness industry.
Yeah, no, it is. And the crazy thing is, I've been training since 99, and I like to collaborate with all different practitioners. Mm-hmm. It's almost, there's no bad system out there. It all works. So it's like if you can find something that you love or you're going to do, you're going to find success. And that's why I think our industry is so exciting right now. So you're not limited to just one thing.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to get the success you want.
Yeah, and like in Washington, we got friggin' trapeze. If you want to learn how to do a trapeze, you can do that.
Dude, they got everything.
I know, it's awesome. I love it.
I feel like there's a little bit of everything.
Well, I think just down the street from me, there's a parkour warehouse.
Hardcore parkour.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
That shit's wild, dude. That stuff.
So, yeah. We're in the perfect state to be in for anything.
You see that stuff where they're doing like parkour off the side of buildings and stuff, dude? That like blows my mind. It scares the shit out of me. I am not a heights guy.
I used to be, but now that I'm a dad and an older guy, like I'm like,
How many kids you got?
So I got one daughter. She's 8 years old, and because of her, we got a puppy. So I got two. I call them two little daughters.
Yeah.
Right now, so that's enough.
That's enough, man.
My hands are full.
But I suppose it does change your, like less risk taking when you know that you got somebody. Yeah. So, like, I don't mind heights. Like, I could do roller coasters or, when I used to deer hunt, you sit up in a high tree stand. That didn't bother me. But when I see those dudes on the side of buildings, like, hanging off, I'm like, no, thank you.
Yes. Well, and the other thing, too, is, like, the business kind of revolves around me. And whenever, like, I'm in a precarious situation, like, if I get hurt, like, I got to get insurance. You start doing these calculations.
Dude, I know, like, I'll be working all the time, and there'll be, like, groups of rugby players that come into the bar. And they see me, and they're like, oh, this guy's a bodybuilder. Look how big he is. Like, dude, you got to play rugby. And I'm always like, why would I want to do something that's going to take away if I get injured? You realize how much I love lifting, how much I love bodybuilding. Like if I can't lift, so if I injure myself and I'm not able to lift and my mental health goes down, and I'm like, it's not worth the risk for me. I'm not gonna go play rugby.
And rugby, as much as I love it as a spectator,
you have to love it.
It's team fighting is really what it comes down to.
Well, and it'd be different if you're super passionate about it. Then I totally get it. It's totally worth it because that's your passion. But my passion is in the gym. So anything that's gonna like threaten to possibly take that away from me, I'm just not gonna do it. Maybe pro wrestling if I came out of retirement because I love wrestling.
How long did you do that?
I did that from 2008 until 2016.
That is awesome, man.
So, and so my biggest years were 2010 to 2012, 13. That was where I like had the championship belt for this small promotion in Iowa.
Sweet.
So Impact Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
And then that was the time that I started getting like my WWE tryouts and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you know like Jim Ross, the announcer.
Yeah.
So like he was the one, him and Jerry Briscoe, who used to play one of the Stooges. That would get beat up by like Stone Cold. And those two were the one that gave me my tryout in Florida.
Wow.
So I had one tryout in Florida, and then I had another tryout in Columbus, Ohio at the Arnold Festival. And so that's like my claim to fame, So it's like, so a guy like Jim Ross chose me to go get a tryout. So I'll take that because I have a tremendous respect for Jim Ross because he's like my favorite announcer. So that's my claim to fame in wrestling. And if there's anything that was going to make me go do some dangerous, crazy shit, it would be trying to wrestle again. But besides that, I can't. I don't like going to the gym. For me is like almost spiritual. It's what it's mental health for me. It's my identity to a certain extent, and it's just what gives me like passion and love and joy for life. So like, I'm not gonna go play rugby. Sorry guys, it's like,
No, I got you.
Just not gonna do it. Then I'd have to be calling you up and being like, bro, my joints are fucked up. Help me.
Exactly.
Help fix my joints so I can get back in the gym. So has that been something you've been able to do where like people have like thought that like they had maybe a career in something over, but you were able to help them rehab and they were like, oh shit, I actually can keep doing this.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, we work a lot with fitness in general, which is always great to just make anybody feel better and look better. But that's where I get really excited and passionate when an athlete comes to me and they've tried 5-6 different things and they like almost lost hope. So to be able to like even push them one step further to getting back is huge. So that's where like, it's the reason why the system was created, and that's what gets me super excited when we run into somebody like that, because
it's like pretty fulfilling, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Because that's where I was at when my shoulder was hurt, and like I felt helpless. I was like, I gotta stop lifting. I can't be strong anymore. And then it was kind of at some point I was like, I refuse to hear that answer in my head. Like, there's got to be a way.
And that's a lot of times people will hear these things through certain channels.
Yeah.
And if you just gave up there and accepted it, it's not always a good idea. Even when it comes to like diseases and certain things, people are able to find, you got to always keep fighting to like, that's not, I don't really quite accept your answer.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're able to, and then you like go on, you realize actually there's this other option. Like that's not just the end for me. It's not just surgery and that's it. And there's, it's kind of like DDP. If he would have just accepted, like, well, you got to have back surgery and you're not going to be able to be, now the guy's 60 years old and he can still like go out and do the diamond cutter at wrestling shows and he's fine.
Yeah.
He's still jumping off the top rope at AEW shows and doing all this. I mean, he can like lift his leg, up to his head. It's like, come on, man.
Well, he's another great example is like, he looked in shape, but he wasn't like ripped, but he was like one of the most dynamic, like,
right. And the weird thing about DDP is like, that dude got in wrestling in WCW, like he might have been like I'm 37 right now.
Yeah.
That might have been like when he started. Like he started way late.
Yeah.
I should look that up. Let's look it up, dude. I just want to see.
I'm trying to remember what year it was. I think so. I saw
like 96, 7.
One of my favorite wrestling matches of all time was when he took on Goldberg. I think was it at Star.
Oh, dude,
that was like one of the best matches ever.
All that stuff is like on Peacock now, like for streaming, and I just love going back. So, yeah, let's see how old was DDP? And this is kind of to make a point.
Yeah.
He started that, for people that want to work with you or get into bodybuilding, go talk to Mark and get into bodybuilding or go to the body shop. Like, if you have this idea that there's some certain age where you're just like, well, it's too late for me.
Yeah.
That's just not. So he began training to become an in-ring performer at the age of 35. Wow. So he wasn't even, so think of how big that guy's career was, and he didn't even start till 35.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's like, how old was?
I mean, it just kind of speaks to his mindset. Like, there's no limit. It's like, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it.
Right, so it's kind of like, it doesn't matter when.
Yeah.
I was going to look up how old was Stallone when he started, when he was in Rocky, dude.
I know, right? Talk about another amazing story.
Yeah, I'm a huge Stallone fan.
Hard not to be, man.
Are you like that stuff? Oh yeah, dude. Like, what's your favorite movies? The Rambos?
Cobra Stallone. Do you remember that one?
Oh, Cobra was great, dude. The glasses and all that stuff, man.
Yeah, I think, did he have a matchstick in his mouth? That was his thing?
Yeah, he was already 30 when he first did Rocky.
Yeah.
Yeah, he always had like a matchstick and he had the aviator glasses and like the leather jacket. And I think that was when he started dating Bridget Nielsen, and there's all those rumors about weird stuff. And yeah, that was... the 80s had a cool style, man.
Yeah.
I loved a lot of... Well, I mean, even like the toys and shit. Yeah. Like we had, just some really cool creative stuff during that time. Do you have any favorite movies from that era?
Oh, man. Yeah, so I'm 46. I was a big 80s kid. I mean, obviously Conan, right?
Oh, yeah. Arnold, dude. Yeah. That show was the shit.
Yeah, and just all those classic action movies. Yeah, we grew up renting Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, all that, yeah.
And they're, like, legit.
Yeah.
That was the thing, too. Even, like, Stallone, he was legit in the sense of, like, he did too many of his own stunts. And I think he just actually came out and said, like, I should have actually had people do my stunts for me.
Yeah.
Because now he's, like, in his 70s and he's paying for it with his neck. And
yeah, right.
it's wild. But, I mean, it's a pride thing, though. I get it. Like, you want to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Have you ever worked with any kind of, like, actors or any, like...
No, you know...
Performer. I feel like performers would be one for you, especially... people that do like aerial stuff, like the aerial ribbon dancing or pole dancing or...
Yeah, so as far as like performers, it's been mostly fighters, soccer players, and actually over COVID, it's been a ton of basketball of all things.
Basketball players, yep.
Yeah, so what we found out, it was through research from one of my colleagues. He's a strength and conditioning coach at a college in New York. He did actually a study. He's one of those super smart guys. That over COVID, all his athletes were on their back, meaning sleeping or sitting down, 70% more than usual. Mm-hmm. So we saw this rash of Achilles ruptures over the past 2 years. Like my phone was ringing off the hook, and I was like, another Achilles thing? Like, what's going on? So, and that's what's been cool about this whole journey is like having colleagues like that we can get on the phone and be like, dude, what's up? So, you know, over the past 2 years, we've worked on a whole protocol for...
So you're like a resource now for people when they have a problem like that. They can know they can call you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And vice versa, too. Because, like, because he's really good with track and field and basketball. And so when I got all these new clients with all, I called them up. I'm like, dude, what's going on? So between him and then the doctor in Bellevue, we all kind of had this little mastermind. So we got really good at dealing with like Achilles ruptures and foot issues.
And what is the cause of those? What were you finding?
There's a lot, but one of the main ones that we look for in assessments is so your soleus, that deeper calf muscle.
Yeah.
You can really look at how long or short it is when someone's knee is bent, and then you test their ankle range of motion with a bent knee.
Yes.
And it is 100% everybody is short.
Yeah, I feel like we never...
Yeah.
In our society, we just never get in that position. Because I do that when I did calves yesterday on my leg day, and I really like go down and I stretch them, but I know they're never getting in that position beyond that.
Yeah.
And like even last night, I was waking up in the middle of the night cramping up a little bit. I'm like, wow, my muscle, it's like it's so weak in that spot.
Yeah.
You know, that flexed the ankle, like in that, what is it, dorsiflexion, where it's like that. It's like even my wrist, it seems like we never really go past a certain... So, there's probably so many things with the body like that, man.
Yeah, so, and, as soon as that soleus is short, then all of a sudden the knee starts taking on more force, and then, the tendons... So the Achilles tendon, when you're at a full sprint, it has to deal with 8 times your body weight. Damn. So if you think about that isolated muscle, like, why aren't we strengthening the shit out of that thing?
Right.
So the cool thing about that is, like, you're a bodybuilder, so you understand, is all you would have to do is really, like, isolate the soleus, so that's a bent knee calf raise, but then really focus on, and it doesn't have to be heavy, enough load to give you more range of motion.
Yep.
High reps, extended range of motion.
And it's important to do it with bent knee, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because that's going to give you that extra...
Yeah, because with the leg straight, it's more of the gastroc.
Okay.
And so the soleus never truly gets lengthened. So you got,
right.
And so what's cool about this stuff, it's relatively simple solutions. It's just looking at things a different way.
And it's weird because the only time my leg really ever gets in that position is doing like squats, you know, like, so it is weird. Like, but you should be doing it more.
Yeah.
Like maybe even like a morning routine where you stretch certain things and like,
yeah.
I guess when I do my kind of stretching, I definitely do like a downward facing, whatever the one is where you kind of hold yourself up, and then my legs get they get bent quite a bit then, but I just don't feel like we do enough of that stuff, man.
Yeah, and it's almost like in a perfect world, I say this all the time in my head, like if someone has a lot of time to work out, you almost want like your traditional strengthening. And then you almost either want to, like I said, sneak it in or have a separate day where you're joint strengthening. So
I think a separate day even would work too.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of like do like maybe an active cardio day where you do your cardio, get on the treadmill, and then you can do some of your joint stuff.
Yeah.
Stretches.
Because I
might even talk to you about doing some of that.
That'd be awesome.
On my rest days, it would be nice to get... Because that's when I do a lot of my stretching and stuff like that already.
Perfect. Well, the cool thing about it too is the volume doesn't have to be super crazy.
Yeah.
As long as we're able to awaken these things and innervate them in the right positions.
But it's probably more challenging than I think too.
Yeah, because
you might not want to have it on every rest day either. You might want to have it on your active days.
Yeah, and so our system is very flexible in the sense because sometimes I deal with someone right out of surgery. Sometimes I'm dealing with somebody who had this injury for years.
Yeah.
So we have kind of different levels how we approach things. So it's all the same movements in the program, but like if it's something where I need to rejuvenate and heal, it's like almost like on a 1 to 10, we're working at like a 4 or 5 resistance.
Yep.
But just activating. So that stuff you can do every day.
Right, that's just like basic maintenance stuff that you could do.
Yeah, and if I have a fighter or somebody who has to deal with high levels of force and extended ranges,
that's gonna be much more intense.
Yeah, then we're going 7, 8, 9 in these really extended stretch positions. So
they might need more recovery from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. No, that makes a lot of sense, man.
Yeah.
So what do you think about like stem cell and stuff like that? You think that's going to be something you'll end up probably working with in the future?
Yeah, you know what is so crazy right now, and this is what I love about podcasts like this one is like guys like Huberman. There's another guy, Andy Galpin.
Oh, Andrew Huberman podcast is like one of my favorites, man.
And it was a short conversation via messaging, but we wanted to get studies on our stuff, so we contacted this guy, Andy Galpin. He's like
Dr. Andy Galpin.
And he like answered my response. And
super good resource, dude.
But it's like like on Spotify, YouTube, you can go listen to the latest research by these guys who are in the trenches. So short answer to that question is like, there's so many cool things out there like stem cells. All these new technologies and ways to help people for longevity.
Yeah.
It's like, I think
NAD drips.
Yeah.
And,
it's like there's all this cool stuff. Yeah.
God, imagine that, dude. Someday we'll just be like living to 120, 150, 200 years old.
I know. Right?
You know what? I say that joking, but it's actually not a joke because I think what research is saying right now is like for every year, I can't remember how much, but every year that passes, we're gaining a certain amount of lifespan.
Yeah.
So like by the time we're old, we're gonna have gained so much life. Like it's gonna be noticeable compared to our grandparents. I guarantee it. Like,
it is. I mean, just the way the technology is improving and that we can share information faster. Like it's pretty insane.
It's something about how I think it's the sharing of information, medical things getting better and better. Quality of life just getting better and better. Even though we all think that we're arguing all the time and fighting, our quality of life's actually much better than it was 10, 20 years ago.
Heck yeah.
I mean, we think everything's falling apart because of, social media, but if you look at like statistically, everything is really good actually.
Yeah.
As far as like longevity and people living longer and
that's what's really cool. And I don't have exact numbers, but like longevity's trending in the sense like when I was starting this, like people would not listen to me when I talked about longevity and longer shelf life, and now it's like it's its own thing.
It's a thing,
and it's so exciting to see something so valuable trending and actually be marketable
and so now you fit right into that.
Yeah, and so I hung on long enough to be
now it's valuable, man. So it might be the right time for it to hit, and. Yeah, I think people just care, because it's like the quality of life stays better for longer now.
Yeah.
So people want to live longer. And, then it's like, they want to be there for their kids and see their kids have kids. And, like, it makes a lot of sense. When your quality of life is bad, then you don't really care about longevity because you're like, well, they can take me when they want,
Exactly, right.
That's like how a lot of people's grandparents got because it's like, well, my body's beat up. The Lord can take me whenever He's ready for me.
Tapping out.
But it's different when you're like in your 70s, but you basically have the quality of life of like a 30-year-old 20 years ago, because it's so different now. It's like you see people in their 60s and 70s that look the way that like 30 and 40-year-olds looked like 20 or 30 years ago, and it's like, when did this happen?
Yeah, and there's so many components to that, right? Your nutrition, how you're taking care of your body.
More awareness of that stuff.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I fell in love with the whole connective tissue thing because it's such a strong pillar in that whole system. And then over the years, like you said, we were talking before the podcast, somewhat stay in your lane in the sense.
Yeah.
That like that's my thing. That's what I'm really good at. That's what I'm dedicated at. So I specialize in that.
Right.
And, with my colleagues, I can outsource.
I think that's with everybody. So like when I start training people, like if there's somebody that has an issue that needs a chiropractor. Like, I'm not going to try to deal with that as a personal trainer.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to refer them to a chiropractor or to a medical physician that can properly, deal with that. And I think everybody should do that. It's like, so you kind of want to build, like you said, and that's what you've been doing, is building this community of, people that you can work with in this industry. And it seems like your product kind of can drop in to almost any sport and just kind of help, just take what's already there and make it better.
Yeah. And that was a lot of, and I say research, more just talking to people and listening and to understand, like, what's missing, what's needed, how can we help out? And that, that's why we have so many products. Cause like I said, the past 2-3 years have been so many Achilles things. We develop products for the foot now.
Oh yeah, and that's probably helps with basketball a lot.
Yeah, which is ironic because it was funny because whenever basketball players come in, they look at me and they're like, "Did you ever?" I'm like, "No, I never."
You're like, "Nah, that wasn't me, dude." Yeah.
I can help you out.
Hey, it could in a different life. Who knows? But yeah.
Exactly.
No, so if somebody is interested in these products and the services that you're offering with Roundbox Fitness, what would you still have your studio that you do?
Yeah. So
you implement everything there, I assume.
Yeah. So we have a 1,000 square foot studio. So basically I have 5 full stations of every piece of our equipment. So like I call them like 5 mini gyms.
Yep.
So we do small group there, anywhere from 1 to 5 people. And then also our other part of the business is people buy the products and we deliver them programs online.
And that's cool too. So that's where you're talking about ramping up if you need the production.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you offer in person at your studio. You also offer online programs.
Yeah.
And so if somebody wanted to get into it, they would go to roundboxfitness.com.
Yeah, roundboxfitness.com. We have our Instagram page.
And then when you get to that site, what is it like? You just you fill out a questionnaire, or
Yes, I mean there's a direct link to the shop, but then we also have a questionnaire, and that helps me a lot too because if I know like what goals you have, I can point you to the right program right
away.
Yeah.
Okay, man. How long did it take you to kind of put together like what you wanted to do with your website?
Oh, that was a long time because we're actually starting over. In the sense, because now that that website did really well for filling the studio, this next step, it has to be like a full-on e-commerce where there's like a membership side. So we're building that out right now. So it's a ever.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be valuable because it's like you can expand, the people that you help. It's not just in this area now.
Yeah, because a good portion of our business is certifying other trainers. So with this new kind of improved website, we'll actually be able to put all their certifications online.
Yeah.
Because I typically do them like in person.
So there could be Roundbox certified people in different states.
Yeah. So we have about 12 trainers in other states right now. And then with this new, with the software and being able to put all the courses online, we can really expand our reach.
Yeah, man, that's freaking awesome. So is there any other things that you kind of wanted to talk about while you're here?
Yeah, I don't.
Because we got plenty of time, man.
Yeah. Actually, I want to say the past couple of weeks, I was able to like corner mark and really talk about bodybuilding.
Yep.
Because I love when I get into a new field or sport, understanding all the little nuances.
And he's a good guy to go to.
Yeah. So, and it was, just questions for you as an athlete, man. I would love to learn about kind of like, actually quick personally, like you got any joint things going on or mobility or?
Me, I think I'm pretty okay actually.
Nice.
Definitely muscular imbalances, I'm sure, with like, like I said, like the ankle mobility. The hips seem to be pretty good.
Nice.
Shoulders are good so far. Neck's good so far. I mean, I knock on wood, I'm pretty lucky for being a 6'4" guy.
And ex-pro wrestler.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of I can't even think of anything really aching too bad.
Yeah.
It's different being a tall dude in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
There's definitely limits with I've never been able to bench a ton because I have these long ass bird arms, bird arms. And that makes it hard to do shoulders.
Yeah.
So maybe that would help, maybe some shoulder stuff.
So actually that's a good.
It's easy for me to get the fronts, the front delts. I'll get those nice and big and they end up looking good. And I've worked with my coach to get the rear delts.
Yeah.
And the middle one's a lot better, but it's still hard to isolate for the rear and the middle. Front is always good. I always can get big, but it's always like that reverse stuff with these long ass arms, you know, and you're trying to do shoulder and get it in the right position and all that. So
it's funny you brought that up because one of my really good friends and one of our trainers, he was elite track, and is this guy. Anything over like 6 foot, I lose track. He's got to be like 6'6", 6'7".
Oh, he's a big, tall dude.
He said anytime he went like lateral or posterior raise it would jack up his shoulder because his lever arms are so long.
Yeah. So that's what it is. Your lever. Yeah. It's like, yep.
So there's some challenge.
So you're doing like a side, you know, raise like this.
Yeah.
You got this big long arm, but there's just this tiny little muscle trying to pull it up. So you're trying to just focus on this tiny little muscle here.
Yeah.
Pull on that big long arm, and you're like, come on, you know. So you have to figure out creative ways to try to isolate it. And my coach Jordan has been pretty good with that. He helped me get my shoulders a lot bigger, and
that's awesome.
I need to keep focusing on those before my show coming up because that's something I definitely. For me, it's like back and shoulders. And legs too. You know, try to get them bigger. And then try to get the waist small. I mean, that's what bodybuilding is, dude.
So with that, you know, because like obviously your legs are long too. Do you have any like specific troubles because of that? Same thing with the shoulder, as far as like.
Nothing that really bothers me. I think, you know, it's hard to do. Like for me, deadlift is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
It's definitely harder to do some leg things, I think, just because you're on these long, spindly fuckers.
It's so exhausting doing a
you're
squat,
going
right?
like. So when I'm squatting, it's a long way down and it's a long way up, and it's a lot of pressure on that knee, and it's like. But overall, I mean, I'm sure like anybody, all my joints, shoulders, everything could be strengthened, and it would be beneficial for me. But as far as like any kind of nagging injuries, I don't, knock on wood, have any right now. Which like I said, I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you talked about the shoulder thing because I'll later today or whatever I'll show you some stuff for work.
Hell yeah, dude.
Because what's cool about that is because of your issue with aesthetics and mass, we developed that stuff to kind of stabilize the shoulder.
Yeah.
But it works well for mass too. So
right, because it's probably can help put size on those areas that are hard to isolate. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, man, it's I don't know. I just bodybuilding is. I don't know what I love about it so much.
Well, it's
the creative part, I think. Yeah.
It is, and just talking to Mark, and then just kind of like doing my own research. There's so many different ways to do it, as far as like heavy load, high rep, etc., that that's why it fascinates me.
It is, and I think what you said earlier was so true. Where like everybody gets these certain ideas, but it's kind of like basic principles work. Mm-hmm. And there are universal truths, but it's kind of like there's so many different ways. And I think overall, if you're just working hard and you're following some consistency, you're going to be successful. Mm-hmm. You know, and however you decide to do that, if it's like PP, if it's like push-pull legs, if it's bro split, if it's... Sometimes I think we get really in the weeds with that stuff, and it doesn't necessarily matter that much.
Yeah, you should see some of the arguments I'm privy to.
Oh, dude, I just think a lot of it's and also it's like for anything you do, so you say this is the best program, but what that actually means is these are the benefits of it, and then these are going to be the negatives. Because everything that you do, there's going to be pluses and minuses. It doesn't matter what direction you take. If you try to solve this problem, I think that's even like a quote from like Thoreau or something like, there's no solutions, there's only trade-offs or something like, you try to solve this problem, it's like you solve it in this sense, but now this is worse. Or so you're like, oh no, we better do this. Well, now you've solved it in this sense, but this thing over here is lacking, or like, so there's no real, there's benefits and negatives to every different thing that you do, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
even like life longevity, like we're talking about longevity, so like bodybuilding, you get into it, you become the healthiest version of yourself, you look like $1 million, you eat super healthy, so your markers, everything gets healthier, and so your quality of life goes up tremendously, your energy goes up, you look great, but you might be taking 5 years off your life because it's hard on the body. You know what I'm saying? Like your heart might grow, your muscle, having that extra muscle mass means you have higher creatinine levels, and you're taking all these stuff. So maybe you'll like lose a few years off the end of your life, but the quality of that life's going to be better. So then maybe you focus on longevity. So you're doing more like fasting. You're not doing so much bodybuilding because you don't want to get too much mass on, because like we've proven that longevity is about staying lean muscle, like, so like, maybe then you live longer, but you're not able to like bench 315 pounds. So there's like, it's trade-offs on everything, you know?
Man. Have you done much, have coached on the posing or practiced that part of it?
I've only done like one posing class with my coach.
Got it.
And it is challenging.
That's what Mark was explaining to me, and now that he told me, it's obvious, but I didn't think about.
So I get up in the morning. My routine now is like, I set my alarm for, right now it's like 7 or 7:30, and I try to and I make sure I get up and I take a shower, and then I turn the shower to the coldest it'll go. And I just repeat this mantra a couple times in my head. And so I'll do my back, and I'll just sit there and I'll sit in the freezing water, and then I'll turn to the front and I'll breathe and I'll repeat the mantra. So there's my cold shower in the morning. And then what I'll do is I'll get out and I'll try to like kind of do the posing stuff that he's taught me, and I'll try to do these like stomach vacuums. And it's weird because if you don't do it, you lose it so fast. You have to do it every day. And posing is physically a lot more challenging than you think. And even when he did show me the posing and I did it, it was like the idea of holding that pose and then trying to look like you're just fine. You're like, you know, if you go like with your face like but your idea is you're supposed to look like you're just all happy and like nothing's going on, and you're not squeezing every fucking muscle of your body. So it's like a challenge, man. So they do it. The guys who do it, like Mark, is very good at it. My coach Jordan is exceptional at it, and he looks so poised. They both do like smooth movements, smile on their face. Doesn't even look like they're taking much work to do it, but they're utilizing all these tiny little muscles, and like, it's definitely a skill, and you got to, and so I know it's something I need to work on.
That's what fascinates me too, is just as an outsider, not really knowing a ton about it. It's like, I thought it was mostly about, the looks and the body composition, but that sounds like another skill set. So you got
a whole nother skill set.
You got to look awesome, get your nutrition on point, and then you got to learn.
So they're utilizing their training regimen, how hard they train, the plan that they put together for themselves, like so what they're doing in the training. Making sure that they do that consistently and put enough effort in it to make it work. Then you said, you're right, they're utilizing like nutrition, and that's like has to be on point 100%, especially when you're getting close to a show. You are literally, there is no cheating, there is no exceptions, you're following the plan exactly. Then they manipulate water and everything too. And then besides all that, the posing routine, you're right, it's a completely separate sport. You know what I mean? It's like, it's wild, dude. And the posing thing is definitely an art form too, I would say. Because it's like, Mark throws in his breakdancing stuff with it. And other people do different types of things. And you find I think they find the stuff that looks the best for their physique. And the stuff that maybe they don't really look good at, they won't use that in the show. And like, it's crazy, dude.
So I always have to bring this up when I run into somebody who knows Mark, especially where he's at now. Since when we were in college, Mark had always loved breakdancing, but he got really into it in college. He used to bring a purple helmet with him everywhere, just in case he had to battle somebody.
Just in case. You never know. That's like the musician that's like, I got my guitar in the car, just in case.
Well, it's funny because we all used to make fun of him, and then I saw him like on stage killing it. I was like, dude, this guy's been training for this his whole life.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's cool because it's like you took his passion and mixed it with another passion and was able to, and that's the thing that makes him unique.
Yes.
Who else is doing that?
Well, especially when you look the way he looks and he's pulling off those moves, you're like, what?
What? Yeah, because he's so jacked. It's like, how the fuck are you doing that? Yeah, to be that jacked, but that like agile at the same time, that's a unique thing that he's got. And the dude doesn't look like he's aged at all. No. It's crazy. And he's been in the fitness industry for well over 20 years, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild, man.
Yeah, he was, we started diving deep a little bit about the posing, and he was saying, like, what he likes to train with his guys is, like, the endurance aspect of it.
Yeah.
And to explain, like, when you're head-to-head on stage, like, if maybe you're not as shredded or maybe you're not hitting your poses well, but if you can maintain composure and out stamina them, there's a lot of value to that. So that was
right. So the stamina is like how long you can hold that shit.
Yeah,
right?
and as on my end, I'm thinking like those energy systems, like the tissues involved, like that's a whole thing where it gets my wheels spinning. I'm like,
it is wild too, because like, you know, I'll like got pretty lean and I'll go to like take a selfie or something to put on Instagram, and it's like you got to hold everything just right under the right lighting,
and not look
and you
like
get those, and you don't want to, you know, and it's like, damn, that looks good, but it's like, I mean, a second later, I'm gonna let that go. And it's like, yeah. You know, I mean, you still look good, but it's not as good as like the picture where you just flexed everything. Exactly. And so, yeah, that's pretty cool, man. Is that anything you ever thought about doing, like getting into bodybuilding?
You know, it's funny because he actually asked me. So just to backtrack a little bit, whenever I have a new piece of equipment, a new program, I do that in isolation for 90 days because I need to understand the long-term effect.
You have to get the ins and outs of it.
Yeah. And there's something magical about 90 days. There's somewhere like...
That's about an adaptation cycle, right?
Yeah. So there's like usually 6 to 8 weeks you can get away with a lot of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can think, oh, this is an awesome program. That month 3, if it's a bad idea, I'm going to know. So I've actually jacked myself up with my own equipment because I hit that.
So then you know that's not something you're going to use.
Yeah. So, and what we do after that, then I introduce it to certain populations for 90 days. So we do like case studies of our own.
So there's a lot of testing that goes into this, man.
It's all testing.
And there's a lot of vetting that you do with your products before you're able to use them.
Well, and that's something I kind of hold I'm very proud of because I kind of get it, but there's
high standards.
There's a lot of trainers that will see something on YouTube and do it that day, and it's like, but why I even brought that up is because with the Manta sticks, my whole thing was joint strengthening, right? So I was holding all these different positions, shoulders and hips, and understanding. And then after it was close to month 3, I went up a t-shirt size because my upper body got bigger.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even my intent.
But it's like, oh, this shit's working.
Yeah, so it can be used for lean mass. So I don't know about competition, but even like approaching some of the appearances that you guys have, the aesthetics, just to see like, okay, if we were going to do this just with my stuff, how do we do it? So
right. That's actually interesting. Like, could I get a bodybuilder physique with this equipment? Okay.
Yeah.
And I bet you could.
Yeah.
Actually.
So so Mark and I are in communications all the time. So I think, developing a program with him for that would be dope because, even if somebody doesn't compete, we do have guys asking to look way more in that way. So, if Mark and I tag team on a cool like program using my stuff and his knowledge.
Well, it's so cool because like he has all these clients that you could, that could probably benefit from using your stuff.
Yeah.
You have clients that could benefit from using his training. Like it's the networking thing is just so important, I feel like.
It is.
So that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
This coffee is.
I know.
Yeah, I'm glad we made it. I wasn't sure. Like usually I do these a lot later. So.
Yeah. No, this is perfect. Yeah. Because usually right about now, like my mental capacities.
So like with everything you got going on, you said that you're getting up at about 4 a.m. So your day starts. So you really are a businessman right now.
Yeah.
So the early day, and then you probably have certain people you train, and then you're going around to like, make connections with these other people like Mark and all these,
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, because like in the mornings when I get my admin done, and I have to do a ton of writing, whether that's articles or even our training manuals.
Yeah.
And then I see clients, and then you had it right after that is when I visit our other partner locations or like coaches that use their stuff. So it's like.
So every day for you is like.
Yeah.
This is it.
I
mean, you're doing. Well, this is what being an entrepreneur is, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think a lot of entrepreneurs say this, like, if I knew what it took going in, I wouldn't have done it. So
but now you're in.
I'm glad I didn't know. Or else
well, that is funny, dude, because it's like, I think people think they want to do things until they realize the amount of work that goes into doing said thing.
Yes.
Like, it always sounds good. Like, I'm going to be a whatever. And then they're like, oh, I'm just going to go back to my job at McDonald's. This is
I know, right?
a lot easier than that, Like,
9 to 5. So the way I like to phrase it as entrepreneur, like you have 13 jobs and you're good at one of them.
Yeah,
so
that's hilarious, man.
And so that's when I learned, like, we have to take on business partners. We have to like create a team, or else it only.
You have to, man, and I think and you have to know when the right time to do that is, right? And I think you probably know that. So like, and it's just gonna help you.
Yeah,
it's just gonna help you grow. I don't know shit about it, so I shouldn't pretend I know. But I am reading some books about this kind of thing, and they say that, you know, like you got to know when the time is to delegate and like know how to scale your business properly when it gets to that point. And the guys that think they can do it all by themselves, they usually end up failing. You know, it's like
when that was years of failing on my own, and it was just like, you know, finding the people with the right skill set and also who you can trust.
Right.
Is a huge combo of things.
Oh, I know. There's definitely. I talk to a lot of people and entrepreneurs, and I think, you know, when they say it's valuable either way, but if you go through a bad experience with somebody where they screw you over, you learn something, but it's not fun. No. But at least you learn something from it. But you try to like limit the amount of times that happens to you, I imagine. Yeah.
I got plenty of those stories.
Yeah, man. So how long you've been doing this? Oh, so 1999 training.
Yeah.
2006 till now working on this. So like the ups and downs and the learning experience and like, so you really have put in the time where right now it's all starting to come to fruition, and this is like, it's like the right time for everything.
Yeah, you know, and of course I would have liked a lot more success earlier, but right over COVID, I learned the system got like 100% better over these past 3 years. And then the fact we have a product that's easily recognizable, and there's a faster sales cycle. Like, dude, we didn't have that before. So that's
the positive of COVID, dude. It definitely it made people either sink or swim.
Yeah.
And so luckily you came out on the good side of that, man. But, all right, man. Well, if there's anything else that you want to tell people before we sign off.
So we got Roundbox Fitness on Instagram, roundboxfitness.com. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Mm-hmm. If you're in the Seattle area, definitely hit me up. I always do free demos, and that's always fun for me.
Hell yeah.
So I'm pretty mobile now, so I'm over Bellevue, Redmond, Kirkland a lot.
So if someone wanted to get you to do a demo, they could go online to the website, and they could probably set it up?
Yeah.
Okay, that's very cool. And then your location is?
Oh, we're over in South Seattle, Beacon Hill. So that's 4803 Beacon Avenue South. It's right by the Veterans Hospital and like 10 minutes from downtown Seattle. So we're in a really good location.
Hell yeah, man. This is exciting. Well, I'm excited for you, and I appreciate you being on today.
Yeah. No, I love the studio.
This was great, man. So if there's anything else you need to shout out, do it before we sign off. But other than that, I appreciate you being here, and we'll have you on again.
Sweet, man.
All right, man. Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. If you are interested in this, go to roundboxfitness.com and check it out. So thanks a lot, Curt, for being here, and we will see you again soon.